struggled with Zerg versus Protoss and being able to break a Protoss who has Immortals and Sentries and a wall off on a map with rocks because I've innovated a technology, or at least put it into practice, that many Zergs don't even try. And it can really put Protoss in a bad spot in a way that they don't expect. The issue is Protoss has so many different ways to mess you up in the early game that you do have to be pretty safe and start with Lings, Queens, and Roaches versus pressure. So I open normal this game to be able to respond to all the different pressure. I go 16 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool, and then I rally these next eggs into this extractor. This overlord watches for cannons. That's why he's called Francisco, the funny business overlord. Okay, workers are rallied into gas, so this 20th supply worker goes down here. This is Oscar the Overlord. He's going to chill here for a second, actually put him on hold position so that I'll be able to see the warp gate timing. And if there is a stalker, I won't get the Overlord push in a certain direction. I'll just get the notification that he's under attack, and then he has enough time to get to here. Taking my third base at 30 supply. This is free. This is something that anyone who's lower level Zerg, like I'm saying lower below diamond, big part of why you're there is because of this. The third base is free. You should think of a third base if your opponent expend to a second base, which I was able to see with my first Overlord. So if you're Zerg and you see Protoss or Terran take a second base, your third is free. Whether you can drone the third or not, that's a question mark for later on. But the 30 supply third base is something you absolutely need for your larva income to ramp up. You want to get more larva income, and getting another third slapped down early is a huge part of unlocking that. You also unlock more queen production. You also unlock more creep spread. You also get 1,500 of an armored Zerg stuff that your opponent has to kill before they win the game. So third base, I can't emphasize how important this is, and if you're not taking it because you're scared or something, just take it to test it. Maybe they cannon it, maybe they try to all-in you, but even like the earliest warp gate timings that Protoss can do, you do with 3 hatches. Like you defend them with 3 hatches. You just stop droning at about 38 instead of droning all the way to 66. So that's the opening build, 30 supply third, 33 Overlord, 36 Overlord, remember those so you don't get supply blocked. This first inject in the main falls, and then those 3 drones go into the extractor. Makes it a really easy, efficient step, something I noticed from serial replays. It saves the travel time of more workers having to go from being born to needing to be born and then migrate somewhere and then start going to work. From this standpoint, they are born and they immediately go to work. So there's a lot less downtime. Nice little detail there. Got my ling speed and pulled off gas. That's why we're refilling the gas. Making another queen here. My priority is to spend my larva into drones and then make queens with my excess minerals. A lot of Zergs will have like 800 minerals right now because they were not pumping queens. But you need to be making queens constantly. There are a few breakpoints where I won't make one, like I didn't make another one in the main because I want to make a lair at a fairly reasonable time to get Roach speed and Overseer. So we got our bases set up here. Third base is on the way. Warp gate research is done. I didn't really know whether the third was going down or not, but I do have lings outside the wall. And then I see this. So this is another really important step, is keep some lings outside the Protoss base. They don't want to go out of their wall to attack you because if you have speed, for all they know, you could have 30 lings right here. So your lings with speed are actively a threat, and you should think about representing that threat and just looking at what they're doing. These 2 lings are giving me a lot of information. I've seen 4 gateway cycles worth of what they're doing. I saw 4 adepts. It's not a ton of adepts, but it's something. But now I have vision of that. There's also a prism on the way. I don't see that, but I do know there's a ground investment here. If this was a double Stargate build or some crap, they would not have 4 adepts right now, so this is a pretty nice read. It also tells me that I need to make some units now, because I have no fucking units. So I'm making all roaches. And then I'm going to make some links. Just trying to spend my money. Roaches come out, they kill an adept. Queen Roach drone defends this. Cool. This was a light pressure. Sometimes they commit more to it. Maybe it's a 6 gateway timing. In this case, my opponent expanded, which I still have a lot of work to do to be able to win this game. We cleaned up the adepts without taking too much damage. I'm slightly ahead in workers after that, and thankfully, this Overlord has been able to watch all of this, so I know that they have this kind of sentry-based army now. So I'm applying pressure here. Doing stuff like this, it does take a little bit of APM, but if you think about it, it's not that much. If you attack rocks and you force them to move their army, their build and stuff usually ends up being less well executed. So you don't have to think about sending your units to kill. You can send your units to threaten or to posture. Posturing is a super important thing that you even see in the animal kingdom in nature. Animals posture. They act tough. They project their size and their voice and maybe the way that they look in some way to threaten. And it's an important defensive strategy, even though it looks really offensive. So I'm running at my opponent as though I could trade my units out, and they know that I could. Like, I could choose to attack their stuff, and they would have to respect this. They already made a mistake here with this Immortal running out, because they move command, attack command, or something misclicked it. So because I ran at my opponent, and I broke the rocks, and I made them nervous, they made a mistake. So I was able to get a little bit of an edge there. I don't know if I end up killing this Immortal, but we got a mistake out of our opponent just from pressure. And then I'm going to back up for this. The Warp Prism catch was one of the bigger plays that gave me a lot of control in this game. Warp Prism kill is huge because they spent a robotics production cycle on this. And if you're going Roaches, they want to be making Immortals. They don't want to be making a second Prism. So as soon as it gets to my base, the Queen goes to attack it, puts a Creep Tumor there. The Creep Tumor here is pretty nice because it gives more vision in the area and more movement of Queens for them to be able to chase Prisms and stuff. So because this base is already injected, I put down a Creep Tumor here to get more control over my base. And then all the rest of my Queens ran up to the main. And this is the payoff from pumping Queens early. Because I pumped Queens, I have enough to really threaten the Prism. And for people who haven't followed the progression of StarCraft II Legacy of the Void balance, the Warp Prism used to be a lot better than it is now. It was very oppressive. There was a period where many of the best Protoss were just destroying Zergs with Prism Harass, with Archons. It was simply too strong. They had to nerf the HP of the Warp Prism by a lot to give the Zerg a chance to shut down that aggression in some way. And Queens have really good anti-air range, and their anti-air damage is better than their ground damage. So there's every reason to put every Queen that you have on this Prism, except maybe another Queen or two that are injecting, or you just make new Queens when you pull Queens. That's another really strong move that prevents you from losing your momentum of larva income, is if you need to pull all your Queens for some reason to defend a Prism or to defend battle cruisers or something, you make Queens at all your bases. You do have the money most of the time if you've been droning. So the Queens focus the Prism. I postured with my army. The Queens kill the Prism. You don't always get a kill, but even damage is good because that means they have to be more careful the next time they harass you. So as long as you break through the shields and you hit the hull a little bit. So now I'm making a bunch of drop overlords. This is the trick to being able to beat sentry force field turtle stuff. Because with force fields, they're going to be able to defend these bases really well. They have vision from this pylon. They also have... There's a probe here, which tells me they're probably using F2. Yes, they're using F2. You can check this in your replays for the opponents that you face. If they're using F2, it's really, really strong to create two problems for them. Because what they want is they want you to put all of your stuff in one clump and let them kind of tunnel vision the main fight. And Protoss units are really good at taking fights like that. Zerg is better to be running around and using its speed to be dangerous everywhere. Like, you want to be swarming them, not making a single lance of damage. That's more so what Protoss does with like a 5 Colossus power spike into a big timing attack. With Zerg, we want to be able to be multiple places at once. So I'm threatening here. I brought my queens from earlier on. They have a lot of energy to transfuse. Putting this creep here is just annoying. It's another threat that I'm putting outside my opponent's base. And notice that I haven't really committed in to shove. I didn't shove at the wall. This is a super important note. I'm just existing in the area, making a mess. I'm just making a mess outside my opponent's base. They're like, oh my god, the creep is going to be on our building soon, and I'm going to be blocking this base, and I'm currently already blocking this base from expanding. And I'm breaking these rocks now. So I'm making myself known, and I'm doing whatever the hell I want in their front yard. And this is offensive to them. If I were to just try to charge in, it would suck. I would get owned. So I'm not pressing the issue, and I'm not trying to shove my roaches into this base. I'm just out here being a crazy Zerg. And then this is the trick. You send some roach assassins on some overlords. This could be 1 overlord, 2 overlords, or 3 overlords, or 4 overlords if you want to go crazy. But because Roach Ravager can stutter step back all the way across the map and use biles to slow my enemy down, this is safe for me to do this. It's safe for me to send some roaches. I will lose some units at the front here. But look, they have to kind of back up because this is scary. Corrosive Bile hits really hard. That's one of the things that Protoss complain about if you're thinking in the mind of a Zerg of like, well, Protoss has such good units. The Ravager is one of our best units. Don't tell the Balance Council. And the Ravager applies a lot of pressure. It's AoE damage and it's a lot of damage, so they have to respect it. At the same time, I just shift rallied these guys into the main just to drop. So I'm not even looking at the drop until it gets there. I have Roach Ravager at the front. The creep allows me to pivot back and be very fast. The creep also allows the queens to transfuse. And then this is a secret weapon that I've recently been trying to do consistently in my games. Double macro hatch. Don't believe me. Try it for yourself and see what happens. Because there's so many games where you have a huge bank and you can't spend it because you forgot to inject or your queens were killed or something. But you mined money and you can't make it. That feels bad to lose that way. This is a way of never making that happen again. It's pretty sick. Okay, drop goes in. I lose some of my army at the front, don't care, and I see a weak point here of a pylon powering every building that they've made the whole game. And that's really big. So then we get some probe damage now. I do lose some army here, but I can just leave. I'm sorry, queens. But the amount of disruption that happened to the Protoss main ended up making this super worth it. If I was faster with this play, I could have backed up my army sooner. So as soon as the roaches were in the main and I saw that it was good, I could just go home and know that it's okay because we got enough damage already. And then I could push back whenever they send their army back up. So this could have even been better than it was if I was more prudent with the timing of that. Just trying to salvage anything from this if I can. We ended up saving 1 roach. Saved a roach for that micro. People say StarCraft doesn't have micro. You don't see what I see. We get a hive. The next key unit for me would be Viper and Adrenal Zergling. Those are the 2 key units that I feel really make Zerg tier 3 scary. Okay, so they're attacking at the front. I'm sending back in the 2 overlords of Roach. I just kept them in reserve. And then the Roach Ravager fights and pivots back. And I can pivot back as far back as I want to. I can even lose a base and just transfer my workers to the 4th. These roaches doing an insanely good job. Production tab through most of this is just making roaches, I think. Yep, 24 lings, 4 roaches, a queen, and a hive. And now I put these roaches in a very annoying position. I focus on defending with my army. And I wasn't looking at the roaches, but they definitely existed. Yeah, see, they F2'd. That's the problem with F2, is if they're trying to push you and be committed, then they can't also manage defense. So there you have it. Play safe with Ling, Roach, Queen in the early game. Just get drop at tier 2. Get +1 range attack. Move your queens across, make a mess outside their base, drop them with roaches, and win. This is the way. Hope you enjoyed the breakdown.